Welcome back to this week's episode of the Scarlet Edit. I just want to thank you all for being here. And this week I decided to do a solo episode. As the weeks have gone on and I have been doing different polls and posting different questions and getting a lot of feedback from all of you listeners, a lot of questions have still come up about the affair that I was involved in. So I thought that because there is intrigue there, I would answer some of the most common questions and share a little bit more with all of you. I also wanted to share a little bit about different guests that I have lined up to come on and have conversations with. I'm really, really excited about how it's all been unfolding. And I'm also being very intentional with how I'm structuring the conversations, who I'm inviting to come on, what things we're going to be talking about, because it's very important to me to put episodes out that are valuable to all of you so you can learn things, you can be introduced to different people who are doing different things in the world, some in the direct relationship space, and hopefully connect or feel seen or feel like you're not the only one that has had some of these experiences that are, in some cases, unfortunately, all too common in today's modern relationship landscape. So I'm really looking forward to each week. Like I almost am at a point where I'm kind of giddy about some of these episodes and I'm like, I wish I could just release them every single day. But I know that that doesn't make sense. So they'll still be coming out every Thursday as planned. But I did just want to let you guys know that there's a lot of really cool things going on and I can't wait to share it with all of you. So as I said, just a little solo episode this week, and I thought I would just dive right in. So, one of the questions that has come my way was, tell me more about the relationship. Like, did it feel like a real relationship? And there was one comment on a YouTube video saying, like, well, this couldn't have been real because you didn't experience like all the day in, day out that, people who are in real relationships experience. I will say that it was very much a very real relationship. Of course, it had a similar relationship cycle to any relationship, right? There's the honeymoon phase, there's the giddiness, the excitement, the fun fireworks of like learning about somebody new, doing new things together, trying new food together, going new places together. But there was also, as time goes on and you get more comfortable with somebody, you spend more time together, you do more things. Of course, you're going to have arguments. Of course, you're going to be frustrated with one another. Did we experience all of the same things that a couple that lives together full time and shares a home and paying bills and all of the day to day little things like getting frustrated about taking out the trash? Like, no, but there were other things that, of course, we did get frustrated about with one another. And those things were very real. I think a lot of times people think that affairs are purely based on sex and intimacy. And while there are certainly people who have affairs where it is based solely on their sexual needs, ours wasn't. Were we incredibly sexually compatible? Absolutely. But I would want that in any type of relationship that I have. But was it just based on that or was it only about that? No, I strongly believe that if that were all he had wanted from me, there's no way it would have lasted as long as it did. I mean, we truly became the best of friends. We supported each other through every life event, every life change. We were each other's first call, first person that we wanted to tell good news. We definitely had a very real, very strong, very solid friendship. I mean, even little things like our careers were different. So maybe I didn't always understand what he was talking about work wise, or he didn't necessarily understand, some of the little nuances that only when you work at a company. But he still was my biggest cheerleader and supported me in my career goals and aspirations and vice versa. So yeah, it was incredibly real and incredibly normal. I know I mentioned in the earlier episode is that like he was not a invisible part of my life. he was very visible in my life. So he knew my friends, he knew my family. So it wasn't anything that I was hiding to everyone. Obviously, I wasn't like blasting everything out on all of my social media, but he was definitely not a secret in my life. So it was very easy for everything to feel very normal. And then coupled with everything else, like we spent a ton of time together. So it wasn't like he was this random person that I saw every week or every other week. He was somebody that I saw 70% of the time. So we were always together. So there's definitely a lot of very real things about our relationship. So I'm not surprisingly, a question also that has been asked a lot is, how did I reconcile or what were my thoughts related to the fact that he was married? And I mean, it's an it's a valid question. I mean, I knew from the beginning what was going on and I knew what I was getting into. Like I had said, I never in a million years thought that it was going to last as long as it did. I never thought, oh, I'm going to fall in love with this guy. I didn't even think what could our friendship become. I didn't even really think like how deep could our relationship become. So it- I think because so many of those things just happened so naturally and so quickly that it just was so easy to be with him. And that was definitely something that I had never experienced before was loving someone that was just so easy. He was so easy to love. I always said that loving him was as easy as breathing, and it really really was. What became really hard was the waiting. Now, you might say, okay, so was he asking you to wait? Was he telling you to wait? No, he wasn't. He wasn't doing any of those things. But I was always thinking to myself, well, if we love each other so much and we get along so well and we spend all of this time together and we do all of these things, like at some point, he will want to not have to do what he's doing. And yeah, you can probably hear me say that and be like, okay, you fucking idiot. And maybe you think that, and that's totally fine if you do. But I truly, like, I am a lover. I love love and I believe in love so much. And I want everybody to have the most amazing love. Like, when I tell you that that is truly something that I want and I think that we all deserve, I want everybody to have like unbelievably amazing, pure, unconditional, loyal love. I truly want that for everybody. So I, of course, want that for myself. So I guess I just always thought slash hoped that we would get to a point where it just made sense for us to be together 100% and that he would make that choice when it felt right for him. So I was comfortable waiting for that to happen. And then obviously I got to a point where I was no longer comfortable and I didn't want to wait anymore. So I stopped waiting. So as far as, his marriage went, I didn't I didn't think about it that much. And again, it's okay to have your own thoughts on what I say, but it also goes back to I believed what he told me about what was and what was not going on when he was at home. And I chose to believe that. And that was how I lived. And I was comfortable with that. So I didn't really think about it. And I'm sure somebody may say, like, well, how could you do that to another woman? Well, in my mind, I wasn't doing anything to anyone. I just was in love with a man who was in love with me. And now, again, I do always want to reiterate, like, I'm not condoning this behavior. And it certainly is nothing I would ever do again. But I'm taking you back to in the moment. I'm taking you back to how I felt during that time. And yeah, I literally wasn't thinking about her and I wasn't feeling like I was doing anything to anyone. So, I mean, call it what you want, but that's the honest truth. Okay, another question was, what did this relationship teach me? And what was it that got me to the point when I finally did walk away? I got to a point where I was just simply done waiting. I felt like I had been waiting for so long. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And I knew that I wanted more. I knew I deserved more. So it was just one of those things where I thought, if I don't leave, I don't know how long it would take him to leave. I don't know if he ever would leave. And so I finally just decided that if you can't tell me right now that you're going to choose me, then I'm going to have to end this. So he couldn't tell me that. So I ended it. And I mean, it was devastating. It was so crazy to go from years of talking to somebody multiple times per day, texting to somebody multiple times per day, spending, like I said, at least 70% of my time with him, to nothing. And I mean, going no contact is super, super hard, as I'm sure many of you know. But it's also so important, and it's something that has to be done. And yeah, it sucked. I mean, we did speak again, and actually we had seen each other twice in the first year after we broke up. But then after we saw each other that last time, we haven't spoken since. And that's okay. I wish him well. But ultimately, like, I just don't believe that a relationship where you love somebody that way, or at least for me, a relationship where I loved somebody so deeply, I mean, you just can't transition from being in a relationship to being friends. And, I didn't, as much as I missed his friendship, I didn't want his friendship. And it is crazy too how normalized so many things were in that relationship that I really didn't truly acknowledge until I was a good year or more out of that relationship. And then I was like, wow, I really was compromising on a lot of things that I absolutely never will compromise on again. So I think that, yes, it absolutely broke me, but it also totally set me free to go on a path to get to know myself better at this stage of my life, to really understand what I value and what I want, and also what I don't want. I think that figuring out what you don't want is just as important as figuring out what you do want. And it led me to really, learn and implement some really strong boundaries that I don't think that I had ever had before. And one of those has been, to learn how to speak up for myself and not just kind of go with the flow, or not just, keep my mouth shut because I'm nervous to say what I'm actually thinking. So it's been a positive experience for me on the other side, even though in the moment it was just absolutely devastating and heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, all the things. It was shattered me, but I got through it. So that's the best. So the other thing is being asked if I regret anything or if I have any shame around anything. And no, I don't. I don't regret it, and I don't feel any shame around it. It's for a couple of reasons. One, I don't regret it because I wouldn't be the person that I am today had I not experienced that, had I not gone through that, had I not learned, had I not grown, had I not had my heart broken. I wouldn't be who I am today. And I love who I am today. I'm proud of who I am today. I I think I'm fucking amazing. So no, I don't regret it at all. And no, I don't feel shame. I mean, God, if I felt ashamed about it, do you think I would create a whole podcast based around the fact that I was the other woman in an affair? I mean, so no, I don't feel ashamed because, again, like, I didn't feel badly during it. My biggest emotions while we were together was me being frustrated that, I felt like I was waiting, not because I felt like I was ashamed of what I was doing. Because to me, I fell in love. I fell in love with a man who was easy to love as breathing. And that's really it. So no, I have absolutely no regrets. I have absolutely no shame. But like I've said multiple times on the show, and I'm sure I will say multiple times when I'm on other shows or having conversations about this on my show, I would never in a million years do that again. If anybody ever came to me and said, "Hey, I'm being pursued by a married man, or I'm considering having an affair with a married man, or I feel like this is the direction this friendship is going and he's married," I would be like, "I strongly advise you not to do that." Because I know how it's going to end. I know how it's going to end. And yes, like, was I delusional enough to think that he would end his marriage and then figure everything out with me? Yeah, I was. And I don't fault myself for being that delusional. I don't fault myself for believing that he loved me that much. I don't fault myself for believing in love that much and wanting love that much and loving somebody that much. I don't fault myself for any of those things. But moving forward, I know exactly what I want and I know exactly where my boundaries are and I know exactly what I will and will not do in another relationship. All right. So there's some more questions that I hope helped some more of your curiosity. I'm more than happy to do a live Q&A inside the Patreon. I'm working really hard to getting that rolling. I definitely launched it, I think, a little prematurely, or started talking about it a little prematurely, but that's okay because I'm just learning. I'm learning as I go with so much of this. So I'm going to start marketing that more heavily as the weeks continue. But I am really excited about jumping on in there and getting a real community built with people that want to learn and grow and make new friendships and feel like they have a space to share their journeys and their stories in a judgment-free zone. So with that, I will be wrapping this up, and I hope that everyone is having a wonderful week, and we will see you next Thursday.